You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. A pioneering work, one that is considered to be amongst the first great masterpieces in the Western classical tradition, opens the Winnipeg Baroque Festival this weekend. In its second year, the WBF presents Monteverdi's Vespers, an ambitious performance by dead of winter, joined by a stellar group of soloists and instrumentalists from across Canada, all led by conductor John Wiens, who's joined me in studio this morning. So good to see you, John.
Hi, great to be here.
Well, I want to get the big question out of the way early, and I don't mean to be flippant, but Monteverdi's Vespers, what's the big deal? What makes them so special?
The Monteverdi Vespers are the new music festival in 1610. And they do some things that are really bold for the time, taking a lot of operatic music and putting it into the church. Opera was a really new form at that time. There'd only been a couple that had been performed and widely accepted, and so it was not just a novel thing. It was also kind of a shocking thing. And when you look at a work like that and you start to experience it as a new work rather than, an old work, it's surprising what gets revealed. And so the big deal is that this concert is like this incredible paradigm shift where you can't view it as old. You have to view it as new because everything that came before was so fluid and long-winded and very, very pastoral's the wrong word, but it was meant to put you at ease. This music does the opposite. It's invigorating. It's vital. It's incredibly rhythmic. There's just nothing about it that is the same as Renaissance music, and that's what makes it so incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's the word that we keep coming back to. And I think this is one of those times where we have to leave our 21st century ears behind. And Monteverdi, really one of those composers who, not unlike Beethoven between the classical and romantic, he straddles two periods. He takes, like you say, that Renaissance practice, which has a sort of rigidity about it in terms of the contrapuntal practice that was required, and then fuses it with this new form of opera, of which he was a pioneering composer, really embracing that emotive, beautiful quality where he starts to highlight the text.
And doing
really
away with the doing away with any sense of conservatism.
Yeah.
There's nothing conservative about this music, but it's also so new because it's sort of modal, but it's quite tonal. And just being confronted by tonality. I can't imagine what that was like for the singers the first time that they performed a movement of that work. They must have been just shocked by what they found and surprised and invigorated. They would have been like, "Oh, you want me to do what? You want me to sing how? Amazing."
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, like many singers have done over the last 30 or 40 years, some of them probably turned to Monteverdi and said, "I'm so sorry, but my voice can't do this."
Well, I actually want to talk a little bit more about that because you posted the other day on Facebook about how the first time you heard this music was from the inside as a member of the choir and how it changed your life forever. Can you talk more about that?
I was a young and impressionable 22-year-old making my way as a singer in Montreal, and Christopher Jackson hired me for a concert about which I knew practically nothing. And he sent me the score, and I listened to it, and I learned it as best I could. And then I went to the first rehearsal, and we did 2 or 3 rehearsals, with the choir. And I thought, I'm not sure. What's the big deal about this? And then we got into the space, and we got with the instruments, and I was completely hooked. Like literally 2 minutes later, I was just wild for this music, and I have been ever since.
And you have been ever since. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever conducted it before, though?
Never.
So what an opportunity this presents.
It really is. And I have to say, it's a little daunting. It's a bit outside of my own personal wheelhouse. Like the things that I'm known for as an artist, lush sound, shape, like long shaping and things like that. That's not Monteverdi. Monteverdi is right to the point and very immediate and really on the front foot. So that's been a real enlightening experience for me, and super fun too.
Yeah, super fun, and super fun for the audience, because this is really a rare opportunity to hear a production like this, a full Monteverdi Vespers. This is the second year of the WBF. Winnipeg making a bit of a name for itself in the early music scene. Why do you think that is, John? What supports this sort of early music mecca in Manitoba?
We have a great a cappella tradition here. I think it starts there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it also helps that Canzona's been doing this style of music for 25 years. So there's like a real sense of continuity here. And Dead of Winter has been doing this music since the very beginning too. And Dead of Winter kind of focused a little more on Renaissance music, except for my good friend Ross Brownlee, who definitely did the Monteverdi Vespers once before and did it extremely well. I heard the recording. Excellent.
So the Winnipeg Baroque Festival, a collaboration with, as you say, Dead of Winter, Canzona, and the New Kids on the Block, Proximus 5.
Here they come.
Here they come. Very excited for that. We're going to hear more from them next week. If you're just tuning in, my name is Simon Rusnak, and I'm chatting with conductor John Wiens, who leads a performance of the Monteverdi Vespers this weekend. I want to talk about the sheer number of musicians that are involved in this, John, because it is a work that calls for 7 solo singers, a chorus large enough to divide into as many as 10 parts, and a varied and colorful orchestra. I mean, I keep coming back to it. This is going to be quite the production.
It's flamboyant and incredibly sensual. I think the thing that got me hooked on Monteverdi on this particular piece was the incredible sensuality of the sound. It's so different from everything else we hear. I mean, we heard it in Bruce's lovely playing just a minute ago. The cornetto is so very different from all the other instruments. You can say that the sackbut has, a similarity with the trombone, but it's not the same. It's warmer, it's softer. And the violins and the violas, all the string instruments, they're all using Baroque bows, they're all using gut strings. This is a really exciting thing because it gives us a chance to really feel the tensile difference in the sound between Baroque strings and cornetos and wind instruments, and then voices. It's going to be really remarkable. We had our first rehearsal with the soloists last night, and I left really excited.
Yeah, how could you not, it feels like, how could you not? And then all supported by that portative organ. We're still going to call it the new organ in town, but just such a unique instrument this is. So, I mean, we're talking about the instruments, and then there are the voices. And I mean, you've assembled singers and musicians from across the country, right?
That's right, yeah. That's quite a labor in and of itself, and thank goodness for Dead of Winter. There are very few organizations, I think, across the country that are going to take on something of this size, and Dead of Winter's doing it, and I'm really proud to be a part of that.
Yeah, as he should be, and as we, the Manitoba audience kind of get to relish in that. So just what an opportunity. A little bit more about the actual Vespers itself. Part of the daily Roman Catholic prayers known as the Hours. Vespers take place in the early evening. This concert is also taking place in the early evening. And a Vesper service written to honor the Virgin Mary, drawing on texts from Marian feast days throughout the liturgical calendar. These psalms are then paired with, I don't mean to make this into a history lesson, but I'm going to keep going anyway.
Too late.
Too late. Interspersed with non-liturgical motets, an all-instrumental sinfonia, hymn, and a concluding Magnificat, plus some antiphons for the day that are often omitted.
And we're throwing it on its head.
Oh, tell us more. Okay,
we're doing it completely differently.
All right, okay, go.
Okay, so my take on it is that we're not in a liturgical setting. We're not presenting a liturgy, and at the time that Monteverdi, if this piece ever was performed in his lifetime, and we don't think it was.
Yeah, we don't even know why he really wrote it.
Yeah, we do.
Definitively? Yeah.
It was an audition piece.
Yeah, audition piece, or maybe for a wedding is the other story that sometimes gets told, but that one's questionable.
I think it's an audition piece.
I agree.
Yeah, he was having an awful time with his employer and needed to get out of there, and how do you do that? You publish.
And he got a new job a few years later in
the best job.
Anyway, carry on.
So anyway, we're throwing it on its head. We're going to start with the Magnificat, and we're going to end with the first half of the Vespers.
Oh, how radical.
I know, it's wild. So the first half is going to be the Magnificat, followed by the hymn Ave Maria Stella, followed by the sonata.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and we'll do the big stuff. It'll be great.
Wow. So tell us about that choice, because it's in a non-liturgical format or presentation. What made you want to put the Magnificat first?
Well, when they do the Messiah, they don't always do it all.
Yeah, it's true. There
They
can be
cut it
cuts
up.
and changes.
And sometimes they only do the second half, or sometimes they only do the last third. It just depends on what time of year and what the conductor's feeling like. And when I looked at the piece and I thought about it really carefully, I realized that the Magnificat has this wonderful calming feeling, which is really very lovely, but it doesn't feel like it's the end of a concert. And that's because during the time of Monteverdi, people would go to something like this, and they went because of the music. They went because they wanted a musical experience or a concert. But then after a certain point, they would start to trickle out and go about their day, right? They would get to the end of the big section, then the Magnificat would start, and they would sit there and think, okay, I have a choice. I can go cook dinner, or I can stick around for the end, right? So if that's the way that everyone then treated the Magnificat, I don't want people to leave halfway through the concert.
Yeah.
I'm putting the Magnificat first. I'm giving them a chance to get used to the sonorities and get used to all of the wonderful sounds that they're going to hear, and then we'll hit them with the big stuff in the second half.
So one last little bit here. This is a concert that takes place at Crescent Fort Rouge United Church, the Crescent Arts Center. And the one kind of last musical player, if you will, when we're talking especially about the music of Monteverdi, we've talked about the instrumentalists, we've talked about the singers, is the acoustic. That matters so much. And what a beautiful acoustic this is.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to have the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the space is too dry, it won't quite work. So I'm really happy it's in Crescent.
So go bask in that music. John, so wonderful to have you here to chat about the Monteverdi Vespers. And again, this is the first in 3 concerts as part of the Winnipeg Baroque Festival. People can get passes. Single tickets are also available. WinnipegBaroqueFestival.com, the place to go. We're going to end this conversation with a little bit of Monteverdi's music, a selection from the Vespers.
All right.
We're going to hear Nisi Dominus. John, great seeing you as always.
Yeah, thanks a lot.